Money in the Bank is this Saturday, and let's go into our predictions. So we can start with the men's Money in the Bank match, which is Jey Uso versus Chad Gable versus LA Knight versus Drew McIntyre versus Carmelo Hayes versus Andrade. I feel like we've kind of already established who's not winning, which is LA Knight, because
Yes.
Logan Paul is going to interfere, likely with the brass knuckles. We assume that's the only way he could ever knock out a guy that looks like LA Knight. Let's be real.
Yeah.
We don't think Chad Gable is winning because,
I mean, Uncle Howdy is omnipresent. Can we
yeah,
just that man could just show up anywhere?
yeah. Um, we don't think Jey Uso is winning because he's
Nah.
inevitably going to be part of the Bloodline storyline. So it really doesn't make any sense for him to come anywhere near
But
being the Money in the Bank winner.
then it would be Yeet in the bank.
Yeah, no, thank you.
I know, but we have to think that could happen.
I don't want to.
It's tough.
I can't. I just can't. So that leaves Andrade, Drew, and Carmelo Hayes. Carmelo Hayes seems out of the three like the least likely to win. However, he could benefit from it because he is young. I just don't know how interesting that really is in the grand scheme of things. Like, I don't know that he's established himself enough on the SmackDown roster that people would care one way or the other. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, I agree.
people like him, obviously, and people want to see
He's
him
awesome.
wrestle because he's great, but I just don't know that they would really be like, yay or boo. You know what
It'd
I
be
mean?
too big of a step. It'd be way too big of a step to put the Money in the Bank on him
Yeah.
right now as he got to SmackDown. I mean, it just does not make sense for him to get drafted and then all of a sudden he's a potential contender
Yeah.
for Cody Rhodes' WWE. Or okay, it's not that well. Okay, you really think he'd be thrusted into the Damian Priest, Seth
Yeah.
Rollins, Gunther, like that vortex of the world heavyweight? No. So you got to think of it from that standpoint.
Yeah. So that leaves Drew and Andrade. And I think for us, we said those are basically the two favorites. It's really hard for me to pick between them because I feel like if we're trying to pick a solid winner who is going to win Money in the Bank and then use that in the storyline or whatever, I'm going Andrade. If I'm going with somebody who could immediately benefit from becoming the Money in the Bank winner and could have a story immediately, like that night or the following Raw, then it's Drew McIntyre, because Drew is either going to get messed with by Punk to prevent him from winning Money in the Bank, or Drew is winning Money in the Bank, and then, as he has stated, he plans on cashing in no matter if Seth or Damian win later that night. And that could be interrupted by CM Punk in some way. So we could see an immediate cash in, or we could see somebody who holds on to it for a little while. I'm not really sure which I prefer.
I don't know either. I just had a thought hit me that Drew could win, and then when the match starts between Seth and Damian, before the bell even rings, you see Drew McIntyre's music or hear Drew McIntyre's music hit. He strolls down, cashes in, and that could be like, I mean, I'm not going to say a squash match by any means, but definitely in the single digits of number type of match where the match itself, it's more important what happens after the bell, like a CM Punk coming in, or Drew celebrating and something else happens. Judgment Day, they kick him out right then and there. Like there's a lot that night that could happen with Drew cashing in, which that's why I'm still leaning and still my gut pick is Andrade, is because he wins. Like let the men let nobody. All right, not even the men, both men and women. Can we just agree to not cash in on the night of Money in the Bank?
Yeah.
It's in some instances it makes sense. In this one, it does not. So it's Andrade. Have him carry it for a little bit.
See, like, I still love my idea of Drew winning and holding on to it and cashing in on Punk at Mania. I just don't know if that's going to happen. I just feel like that would be the ultimate revenge because, as I said, if we're going to see Drew versus Punk at SummerSlam, or if this is going to be a long, drawn-out feud, I don't care if CM Punk wins a couple battles as long as Drew wins the war. And his main priority, his focus is the World Heavyweight title. It's not CM Punk. Like CM Punk just kind of became collateral damage and became like the launching point of this version of Drew McIntyre. So it's like, I think that is his ultimate goal, is to become the world heavyweight champion and to not be cashed in on, to actually have it last. And if he is the Money in the Bank winner, he doesn't have to worry about being cashed in on, because he would be the one cashing in,
Exactly.
And what better revenge would it be than to cash in at WrestleMania a year later on CM Punk, after he finally gets his WrestleMania main event.
And you take his, and it's the main event. And
Yes, because
it is
that's
the
what
main
Punk
event.
said he wanted to come back for, because he never main evented WrestleMania, and that always bothered him. Okay, let him do it. Let him beat whoever the champion is. Then have Drew come out and let him cash in on him and win. Like, that to me is like the best decision that they could go with. Like,
That's pretty
I know
top tier.
it's kind of like fantasy booking,
It's
but to
very
me, it's
fantasy
like,
booking, but
but
that's
I
your
also
pitch, and that's what you want.
But I feel like it's not like that much of a fantasy, though. Like, if we're really trying to think about it from the perspective of how Triple H is going about these storylines, he really is thinking about something now that doesn't happen for another 6 months, 8 months. To me, this feels like something like, yeah, okay, because people are going to want to see Punk win matches against Drew. They're going to want to see Drew get more upset about Punk beating him and whatever, because that Punk is not going to lose matches right away when he's able to return. Like, they're not going to have him
No,
lose to Drew.
because you need to have him win. You need to legitimize him.
Yeah. So to me, I'm like, okay, we'll draw it out a little bit longer and have Drew be able to cash in at Mania. Like, to me, I think, because then by that time we can say that the Drew and Punk stuff had been done. Maybe for the time, Punk won their feud. And then you think it's dead, it's done. Drew acts like he doesn't care. It's this, it's that, blah, blah, blah. And then it's like, no. He's like, nope, I've got my eye on the prize. I know what's going to happen. And he does it at Mania. That's what I want. So I guess I'm going to pick Drew to win Money in the Bank. Because long-term storytelling, I want it to be so that I can also be at WrestleMania and see him cash in on CM Punk. So I can be the only person in the entire arena cheering for Drew McIntyre being CM Punk.
You would be the only person,
I
and
do.
I would not be right there with you.
Yeah,
cheering.
I know.
I'm going with Andrade as my final pick.
Okay,
Andrade is my final pick.
I'm gonna go with Drew.
All right.
And I really hope he doesn't cash in that night. That's the main thing.